one of the biggest moves of the day. Giants trade a 2024 second-round pick, 39 overall, and a 2025 fifth to the Panthers for edge rusher Brian Burns. The Giants then signed Brian Burns to a 5-year, $150 million deal with $87.7 million guaranteed. Listeners to the show know that I felt strongly that Brian Burns was going to get traded. I got the team wrong. Where were you at, 49ers? Come on. I knew they were going to keep Brian Burns. All right, so here's my take on this, Solak. I can't believe how badly the Panthers screwed this up. I mean, this is embarrassing, okay? Remember, 2022 season, 400 reports out there. The Los Angeles Rams offered the Carolina Panthers a deal for Brian Burns that included 2 first-round picks. They turned that down. Okay, fine. Last season, they had a chance to trade him before the season. They had a chance to trade him during the season. They did not do that. This is a 26-year-old pass rusher who is 12th in the NFL in sacks and quarterback hits over the last 5 seasons, and you get a second and a fifth for Brian Burns? I mean, when we did the hypothetical trades, I was saying a first and then like a third that turns into a second. I didn't think you'd have to settle for a second and a fifth. And so this is bad to me on so many levels. Number one, why are you not just paying Brian Burns this money? Is it a rich deal? Yes. Is it an out of this world, blew up the market more than Nick Bosa deal? No, it's not. It's under that. I don't think it's an unreasonable contract for Brian Burns if you think he's going to be one of the best pass rushers in the NFL over the next several years. So the players on your team mostly stink, Carolina. This is a 26-year-old at a premium position. Why don't you just pay the man? They didn't pay the man. All right, so you didn't do that. But then you decide to trade him. When did you decide to trade him? And how is this all you got? Listen, if you're listening to this saying, Sheil, they had a GM change. You know who was there the whole time? The man David Tepper, the owner, who is not really the most hands-off owner. We know this. The man has been there the whole time, and he has been overseeing this entire operation, and this is what you get back for him. Let me remind you why I'm so upset about this. The Bears got a second-round pick for Montez Sweat, and they really only had a commitment of like 8 games from Montez Sweat. This was in the middle of the last season of his contract. The Rams, Solak, traded a second and a third for 9 games of Von Miller when he was like 32 years old a few years ago. The Dolphins traded a first-round pick for Bradley Chubb, yet this is all you could get for Brian Burns. And here's the last thing I'll say about it, and then I want to get your take. Like, even if you didn't want Brian Burns long-term, why not sign him to the deal? Because guess what? You are selling low. He had a down year last year. If he has a good year, you're probably going to be able to get at least a first-round pick, maybe multiple first-round picks. Like, this is probably the lowest his value is going to be. Why are you trading him now under these circumstances? So to me, this is mostly a disaster for the Carolina Panthers. I like it for the New York Giants. I think that's a fine price to pay for a guy, premium position, 26 years old. These guys are not easy to get on the open market, and you pay him what he's worth there. So I like it for the Giants. Disaster for the Panthers. Where are you on this whole thing?
Yeah, so it's important to acknowledge that sunk cost is a fallacy. Just because you had a better trade offer for him in the past doesn't mean that now when the trade offers are worse, you shouldn't take them because the previous one was better. Like he had a down year. You're in a worse leveraging position. Like, we live in a different world than we lived in yesterday, as the movie Draft Day told us like 19,000 times. So like, with that acknowledged, this is awful. This is terribly done. For like pole to pole, this is bad. This is a bad deal in a vacuum. They should have been able to get more than a second and a fifth for Brian Burns in this context, with the context of the previous offers, at which point the Panthers should have known, like, hey, even if Bryce Young hits, we're still not going to be in a position where, like, extending Brian Burns is like, we're ready to compete right now. They still had multiple pieces missing. They still had offensive line questions. They still had wide receiver questions. They still had cornerback questions. It wasn't like, oh, Brian Burns, we draft Bryce Young and we move. Which you can point to the Texans and say, oh, but the Texans took CJ Stroud at 2 and they took Will Anderson at 3 and then they went to the divisional round, yada, yada, whatever. Sure. I tell you right now, Nick Caserio a pretty good GM. If he had Brian Burns burning a hole in his pocket before the 2023 draft and he had two first and a second on the table, he would have made the trade.
I always forget about the second. I forgot about the second until I think Jonathan Jones of CBS Sports tweeted out tonight. I go, oh my, it wasn't just 2 firsts. There was also a second in there. I mean, that's crazy.
Would have been one of the biggest trades in NFL history. Certainly one of the biggest non-quarterback trades in NFL history. And instead it's a second and a fifth. It's the Khalil Mack deal. It's the Bears to Chargers Khalil Mack deal. Not even the first Khalil Mack deal. It's the second one when he was older and not as good. It's pick 39 overall. Buddy, the Panthers had the first pick in the second round last year after Jonathan Mingo, right? Like you can make yourself feel better, call it a top 40 pick all you want. This is not a good selection. Not good enough for Brian Burns. It simply isn't. You want to play my favorite game, which is name the good players? That's probably my second favorite game. I like picking the wins the most.
Name the good players. What does that? I'm not familiar with this game.
Name the good players on the Panthers roster right now off the top of your head.
Taylor Moton is still kicking around, right? At right tackle? Okay.
Taylor Moton, yep.
Left tackle, no, it was not good. Wide receivers, no, not good. Tight ends, not good. Quarterback, I was a fan of, but he's not good. J.C. Horn when he plays. Can I count J.C. Horn when he plays? Okay.
It's close. Maybe not. Probably not.
Luvu is no longer there. Cannot. Derek Brown. I should have let him.
Yeah, there you
Derek
go.
Brown is a good player. By the way,
one more you're missing.
Listen, if you're a team, need a defensive tackle, go call about Derek Brown. I mean, you
could have him for a fourth and a bag of peanuts.
Pick. Yeah, 6th round, and they'll throw Derek Brown in like a 7th back your way or something. All right, so those are the ones that I hit on.
And Shaq Thompson. So Shaq Thompson was the one you missed.
Okay.
Right now there are 4 good players on the Carolina Panthers, and not a single one of them is arguably elite. And I would argue not a single one of them is great. Their 4 best players are all like tier 3 guys at their respective positions, like above average starters, good starters. They're with Brian Burns gone, there is not an impact player on this roster besides maybe Derek Brown for like 4 games of the season. Maybe, and that's me being charitable. There is not a single, this is crazy to say out loud, there is not a single player on the Panthers that you have to game plan for right now. You just show up and run your stuff. There isn't a single player who has any gravity at all. A horrendously mismanaged team that should have seen the end of the Cam Newton era, forced them into a clear, concise, and effective rebuild, and instead decided to try to scramble for pies in the sky for a 1-year recovery and flubbed abysmally time and time and time again. And you know how I know that too? Because Baker went to the Bucs and got good. Baker went to the Panthers and was terrible. Baker went to the Bucs and was fine. Healthy organizations can pull that off. You can't because you're unhealthy. It's very pathetic.
It's very pathetic. I don't know what they were doing. You like it from the Giants end or no?
Absolutely. The thing that's tricky about the Giants is that, like, directionally they're just hard to understand. What are you contending right now? Trade for Brian Burns, give him the second biggest or the third biggest defensive player deal ever. Great. Are you not contending right now because Saquon left and you signed Devin Singletary? Like, what are we trying to achieve here? That's my question. But overall, it's good business. In a vacuum, they got an elite pass rusher not spending a first-round pick, right? Like, they basically spent a second-round pick to get Burns to free agency and then to sign him the deal that he would have demanded in free agency. That's good business any day of the week. I just kind of don't get what the Giants are going to achieve.
That's a bigger conversation right now. Yeah. I'm with you there. I mean, the thing I like about Burns is there's no timeline that Burns doesn't fit. You want to win now? Okay, he's very good now. You want to win 3 years from now? Okay, he'll be 28, 29 years old, and he'll still be really good then, and you'll still have him under contract. So, oh my God, Panthers. I don't know what the Panthers are doing. Giants, nice job by them. Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau. You got some pieces at least up front with this move. All right.